So I was just saying that Niels is open to having a moment, one where he just remembers what it's like to be the pure essence of his authentic self, you know, uncolored by, you know, the opinions of other people and the philosophies of men, you know, just who are you as you experience yourself? If there's no one but you to truly understand and define yourself, you know. How do you want to define yourself? You know, in what ways are you willing to be limited here, you know, so that the context of your consciousness has a frame that's kind of consistent where you can have a life here, you know. So once you open up to the possibility of a transcendent experience, then for a while you search. For a while you search, and then in your searching, you find out that nobody is offering the experience that you've been yearning for, that you've been hoping for, but not having experienced it before, you're not really even sure what you're asking. You know, and one of the things to be aware of in the determination of whether you're going to open yourself into what you've been asking for. So it's one thing to ask for it, and then the next thing is to be willing for the change that will happen if you get what you ask for. How does that change the definition of who you are? You know, what your mission on earth is, you know. So how much change of the realization of yourself are you willing to undergo? You know, and how often? You know, is this something that you're going to surrender to and be continuous with, or are you going to, you know, like going to church on Sunday, are you going to give yourself a glimpse where you're able to, you know, remember, you know, the peace of the core of being what you are, you know, just, Or should we sample into that more often so that it actually becomes something more than a story or a fable that's realized, made real in the eye of this? You know, so what's that potential? What's that ultimate expression that could happen if you allowed it to? I'm not saying if you figure it out and create it and cause it, no. It's what happens if you just stop stopping it from happening. If you just relax and chill and be still and allow the universe to flow exactly the way it's choosing to, without any resistance or reaction or control by you. You know, let the universe be so that you can see it clearly. You know, why go to fight against something that you don't even know and understand? You know, don't define yourself so harshly that you can't find a way to, you know, be a brother to your enemies. You know, what would that take? And how could that be good for you and good for them? You know, how again do we really allow ourselves to show up here? Because the truth of one is the truth of all. If there's a divine Son of God named Jesus, then, and he has that universal, eternal, dynamic self-awareness of the Creator, as his experience of himself. That's a shared consciousness. That's the brother that he came to you as. You are me and I am you. And whatever, in the final on that, what we were talking about before. Okay, so Jesus gets a lot of props, because he had a pretty good stretch of a miraculous life, where everybody was amazed. And some supernatural miracles happened. And everybody was grateful to be a participant in the experience of something like that. What are you willing to experience, truly? Because the you that you've been living as you've defined yourself to be, as you've constructed your ego, that can't maintain the structure of existence when you bring a lot more truth, more truth, more love, more grace, more consciousness, more wisdom. The structure of a fallen consciousness can't maintain the story of its existence in the light of its own truth. When anyone begins to open up their body to an experiential understanding of a universal and eternal unconditional love, and that's there, right here, right now, always has been and always will be. And the only reason why we're suffering in life is because we're rejecting it in every moment of our existence here. It's there, and it's not just there. Everything that you perceive, in every way that you perceive it, is there too. You can't get away from the love of the Creator for the created. And I'm not saying you're created. All I'm saying is that you're experiencing consciousness through a life form. And so for that to be a lifelong experience, your consciousness has to be limited in so many ways, to maintain an identity, So the problem with self-realization is we so don't want to make the mistake again of choosing for too much and dealing with the chaos of instantaneous creation and instantaneous destruction, moment by moment, whatever way. So I'm just suggesting that consciousness is all infinitely undefinable and knowing beyond my possibility of understanding as to what that truly would be, even on maybe on my most profound psychedelic journey. Yeah, probably. Yeah, and more than once. So it's not a bad thing to set yourself free here. So how much more light, how much more consciousness, how much more awareness of the truth of yourself does it take for you to be able to move from suffering into, it's time to create my masterwork, my masterpiece, my, gift to the world that, will amaze and inspire, many, so why not? So, what does it take to be able to personally make the decision that it's okay for you to open up and have a transformational shift, a quantum leap in your understanding, your knowledge, and your wisdom? It's just like 3 layers of the onion came off, and you're that much closer to the core of just that infinite, unconditional love. So that's the cure. And the cure is destructive. It deconstructs reality created in unconsciousness, because reality created in unconsciousness is held together by the twists that happen with misrepresentation and covert hostility and greed and self-interest, regardless of the effects negative it has on others. So it's a difficult place to be here when you share that reality with everybody else, feeling the same way. So all that, just because things have been the way that they've been, doesn't mean that divine freedom isn't available in your next breath. In fact, the rest of this one. What if you chose that experience? What if you opened to say, in the midst of this breath, and right here and right now, and with these people that I don't know or understand, but seems like an interesting proposition. What if you just realized the divine self within your experience of you, right here and right now, easily, beautifully, gracefully, lovingly, open to the universal freedom of everyone. That level of you, where you become an amazing experience for someone else. What would that be? What's that next step for you on that stairway to heaven? What can you see? What can you sense? You got a pretty good expectation that's accurate if you anticipate your experience of yourself at the next quantum jump that you make. So yeah, it's like that. And you can experience that quantum jump instantaneous. You can just put your finger out and sample it. Oh, what's that feel like? Oh, yeah, okay. So it's just your resistance to knowing that keeps you in a state of confusion. What would happen if you quit judging the universe in its entirety and opened up and experienced it as it is, and then had an amazing love affair with the entire universe, because you saw that it is that to you, for you, always has been and always will. The universe loves you. Open and receive it. Understand it. Let that uncreate or destroy or free you from all of the lies that created the definition of reality, that you are something to be judged, to be diminished, to be restrained, to have withheld from you, bliss and grace. Somehow there's an aspect of universal consciousness that has made it its job to suppress other consciousnesses. So, but just in naming that and identifying it, brings it quickly to, having had its day. And then you're being free from it. So what then? What's it like when you're free from all of the subconscious, superconscious desire of others to control your identity, your desires, your needs, your wants? Who are you when you're not being manipulated and defined by every other consciousness that you experience here? What's it like to revel in that inner brilliance of the goddess is you? If this universe is said to you, that's not our experience of you, then you have to say, oh, okay, the universe isn't condemning me. The universe is just simply saying that who I've projected myself out to be to all other beings and consciousness was not what I said it was. The actuality of what I did was this. It wasn't divine actualization of unconditional love and grace and power and glory moving through reality as me. No. Do I have faith that a bunch of people are going to be doing that in a really amazing way? Yeah. I think that's the reality that we're all choosing to open up to. And each one of us, in our turn, not because we have to wait our turn, but because we choose when we choose. When it's right for us to let go and let God be God in all of the trillions of ways that God is expressed here in life and form and consciousness. Because there's no creation without God. There's no other consciousness but God. And when the consciousness of God takes control of a life, by that consciousness noticing that what it thinks about reality affects reality, and how you limit your perceptions, how much less capable you become in meeting reality in a way that, it's a mutual celebration. And that's why we came. We came here to finally know what it's like for embodied reality to be a celebration of divine essence and presence in every life form. Everyone and everything awake divinely. That's the lamb lying down with the lion deal. There is nothing but everybody creating in just such amazing ways. And as they're creating and expressing their beauty and love in their particular way, as she's creating, she's noticing everybody else doing the same thing in their own way. And so we're all multi-dimensional. Every aspect of being within and part of a dimension, we're in them all. and interacting with them all. And so, where do you keep the keys to the kingdom? The kingdom of you being free to be free. No one objecting to your awakening, certainly not yourself. And you're the only one that can condemn you, so, when's that choice point? When you say, it's okay to be me. It's okay to be true. It's okay to be such a clear, clean reflection to the eternal nature of my soul that I can actually feel a radiance beginning to grow in my own presence. And I perceive it in others too. Each of us remembering surrendering, and then opening and experiencing and feeling more, understanding more. The surrender, the ebb and the flow, until you remember the understanding of life. For you to be in a state where you don't get knocked unconscious with each new communication from each new person, where you get sucked into their reality. No, this is a space and a time for you where you get to be free. And you get to be free in your mastery, in your awareness, in your own personal power, because of your knowledge and understanding, moving with wisdom, and love. How successful can you be doing that all the way? You don't have a better hand to play. Loving yourself and loving whoever you're with. Always in love with your reality. Look, feel how that just created an opening and a oneness between everybody in the room as soon as you connected with it. So now there's no more separation. There's no more these little force fields between us like we're a bunch of cells. No, we're free flow. So it's just a little shift, Who am I being? Why am I being this? Why did I surrender control of my consciousness to be manipulated and dictated by a point of view other than mine? No, let it all go. None of that matters. The thing that matters is you taking that personal responsibility to be open and aware enough to see reality as it is, so that you can communicate and live here in a way where you enjoy your life and other people enjoy you too. And it can be from that simple pleasure of knowing that you're a good person and that you spread love everywhere you go. That's not a bad life to aspire to, and you maintain all your humanity too. All of the humility with saying, yeah, I'm sorry. I I wish it could be true that it never could be me, but never will God experience me as the one that opens to His presence completely. His presence, her presence, our presence. Our presence to others is the presence we open to and surrender within ourselves, and that's what exactly are we when you take everything else away. There. So the beginning of the free flow, the opening of the dam, so now we're at the point where we can be at ease. That thing that she was talking about the, that emotional thing that would prevent you from ever being enlightened, So you just let all that be as it was until it no longer dictated who and what you are as an experience of yourself with any sort of unconsciousness or disability. So whatever all that is, you don't think about it, you feel it. And everything that you feel, you keep reaching to feel it deeper and deeper, more and more complete. And the more that you do that, the freer you become, because whatever those poisons and toxins and, those judgments that dictate that you be imprisoned in some way, The time for all of that's over too. Nobody cares anymore. You can be as true as you want to, or as bad as you want to, as conscious and as unconscious. Nobody fucking cares anymore. So don't take your cues from the rest of the world. You want to self-realize? Then feel it. And say, yes, I do. And then let it happen. Just by staying in that opening. Yeah. And everything that comes up in that opening it just dissipates, it just radiates, into a completion of whatever it was trying to be before. Brings that to a happy ending. And that's kind of what we're looking for ourselves here, is that happy ending, I think. The beginning has been what it was. Do I want to repeat it? No. Do I want to even repeat today? No. Why? Because I don't like very much my experience of my life right now. But in simply admitting that to myself, I've now opened a pathway for freedom. Instead of just being stuck, simply acknowledging what is opens you up for what is to be used to be. So what is right now, it's okay for that to be a used to be and not a prediction of the future. So this result we leave in the past comes to an end right here and right now. This is what we're done with. The perfect creation of you being just like this is that completion. Same for me. Especially all these beautiful flaws. You know, this incredibly complex and needlessly emotional, you know, complaint of life, you know, so that's coming to an end for me, you know, I can feel it, I can feel that I'm opening into an enjoyment of life, where life is in joy for me. Joy of me, for me, and in every interaction. What makes it joyful? Easily. Always. And is that something we'd want? Well, better to try that than to continue suffering with your previous decisions. Right? So, I know I keep repeating this, but it's, what are you open to experiencing right now? Not thinking about it. How open can you be to your own truth? Not thinking about it, just open. And how much more, and how much more, and how much more, and how much more. Feel it? Yeah, it's getting good. Oh, well, open wider. Open wider. Quit limiting your transformation, your healing by staying small. By trying to put the universe through a straw. Squeeze the universe through the universe being truly the expression of you. So there is no squeezing. It's just a mirror. So as you open into your experience of that, you can't hold on to your trauma anymore. It's just burning away as fast as you can feel it. You know, each new layer that comes up, it's the forest fire. It can't continue moment to moment. So I guess you could call this atoning for your sins, whatever that is. Let's just say a sin is just simply having your reality collapse and then being stupid. So, open it back up. How? Just remember. Just sample it and go, oh yeah, it's that simple. What is that essence of the eternal and the universal? That essence that gives reality a space to happen, where atoms and molecules, minerals, and all the energies and structures of creation, the truth of you is what gives that a place to happen. Now, if you happen to choose to awaken as that level of truth of yourself in a body, you know, it's up to you. If I could do that, I would. You know, I think you're better at it than I am. So don't wait for me. Why would you want to stay disabled waiting for me when bliss and joy and a miraculous sense of awe that you get to be you? Why would you hold back from experiencing that to wait for me? Or why would I want you to? If I see you on the edge of that thing that happens so rarely that they make up religions after it. But if you see anybody approaching that as an experience for themselves, just don't give them any reason to hold back. Anyone brave enough to open up to an experiential understanding of what a divine awakening would be and how that destroys your reality and sense of self in so many ways and in seemingly just a cosmic fuck up day after day. So be lighter about it. Doesn't have to be a struggle. You can begin enjoying it now. Yeah. It's time for you to enjoy yourself. To experience yourself in joy, in a wondrous, joyful gratitude of, oh my God, how did I get so lucky this time? This is going to be fun. This is going to be a blast. Now I'm going to have to clean things up a little bit here and there, so that divine self-expression and the experience of self, happens, but I can always wait until now to do that. So you did wait until now. So welcome home to the end of defining yourself. I don't want to define you. Whatever that infinite awareness and just kind of this sensual nice energetic feeling, kind of it's interesting that you can have kind of this energetic union with someone without saying or doing or planning anything, where you just go, oh, well, that's interesting. Here I am completely open to this person. Didn't even have to try. How much do we allow ourselves to be surprised in that way every day? What's your personal experience of a transformed life going to look like? Is it going to be a lifetime of continuous improvement that gets you 1% to enlightenment, so you have to do the next 100 lives? to finally enjoy yourself. I don't think those pathways that promise something in the future are worth following if you have to experience yourself as something that's not true in the present, which means, again, being defined, your experience of yourself being defined by others, so. All of that's okay. It's just time to reassess, Is that the way you want to continue experiencing reality in this moment? Or are you done with that? It's okay to be done with the suffering. It's okay to lay it down. No one else is going to suffer because you stop suffering. That doesn't require a weird, crazy way of balancing reality that requires a balance between suffering and bliss, where half the people are in one and the other half in the other. In some sort of unconscious, polarized way, I'm not saying that isn't possible and hasn't happened, and in fact, it might be primarily that way still. But just because reality is the way that it is right now doesn't mean it's anything more than a dream that's passing away and we're going to wake up from. Because that's how reality is actually transformed. It's not through that directed purpose, that intense effort to say, this is not good, and I'm going to make it good by creating this change and getting everybody else to agree that they have to shift what's important to them in their reality and their identity and be defined by you as some sort of great conflict solver, something that was evil. Of course, you're always the good guy, and the other side is always the evil ones, but unfortunately, they feel the same way about you and themselves. Everybody's a good guy. Even the bad guys that know that they're the bad guys, they're also the good guys. They're the good guys being bad so well. They're good at it. But, it's okay to be proud about finding a particular way to be in this reality and then say, look, aren't I cool for being this way? Because some few of us can be like I am, Is that the way to enjoy your life, is to say you're better than other people? It's not something that'll last for long, How long a peak do you have? 20 years, maybe, if you're good. Then what? What are you when the world doesn't care about you anymore? And you're left again to yourself, your experience of yourself, to say, I really got caught up in that one. It's nice to be back home with myself. You should be at home with yourself. You should be able to bow your head and be still. And in that stillness, that vortex of healing and awakening and understanding just happens. And why not? That other thing that Jesus said at the end, greater works than I have done will ye do. Well, that implies a lot of things. What it actually implies is that your consciousness and his consciousness have the exact same potential. They share the same reality, same parentage.
What did he say?
Pardon?
What did he say exactly?
Well, he implied, what he said exactly was, greater works than I have done will ye do. So basically, he was telling his followers that they could out Christ. In other words, more miracles, more good works, more divine revelation, more. And so, and if you look at it from a pragmatic way, then you say, okay, Jesus was saying, at one point in my life I said, don't call me good, because nobody's good except the Father. And so that was real for a time, and then he opened and opened and opened and opened and opened until he was in the fullness of his wholeness. And in that, his opening was such that when he came back to his senses, so to speak, the new reality, his reality was, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So he went from don't call me good, for there are none good on earth save the Father which is in heaven. And then, as he chose to open and experience the results of that opening, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, until he took enough responsibility and opened enough for him to have an experience that had a pretty good understanding of the universe and consciousness and creation. But again, I don't want to be talking about it. That's just for orientation, not to say that somebody else did something amazingly good and now all we do is talk about it 2,000 years later. The point of if you just took that one line and said, this is the only thing that mattered about what Christ said, greater works than I have done will ye do. Fucking figure it out. Figure it out. Not mentally. Open up as much as you can into understanding the nature of whatever it is that's eternal and universal and loves you. How much can you open to experiencing that right now? Good. Now, in that opening, in that healing shift that happened, you got a bigger capacity now. So how much more are you willing to open right now? Yeah, and open, and open, and stay in that opening. As long as you stay in the opening, nothing can hold on to you. Because for it to hold on to you, it has to stay with you. And if your opening is just a continuous opening into, embracing, surrendering, letting go, just that's the flow of grace, the interaction with reality, the ebb and flow, and then there's this. what's possible in this moment that would amaze and delight you if you simply chose to open and experience it. You don't have to even know what the name of it is. You felt the energy, you felt the response. Open and stay in that opening. Open and open and open and open. Until the divine can begin to take a joy that it can flow freely through you without you trying to control it and dictate it from a point of view and a level of consciousness that's really quite funny to think that it can direct to the universal. You know, as if somehow a singular point of view trumps everything. So when we have that really good sense of self, that one unique point of view, and where we choose to see reality in the universe as